Hey, everybody. It's that time again in the week. It's Theology on Mission podcast. We're so grateful to have whoever's listening at the present time to join us. We're actually on camera. You can actually see what we look like. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, Mike Moore, especially in relation to me. You're always a good looking guy with
Well,
your
yeah,
fancy
we're,
haircut and your fancy clothes and your shadow look.
my shadow look. We talked on the phone like an hour ago, and I think I told you that you have a face for radio. You ever heard that joke before?
I received that. I have no aspirations for anything other than radio, ladies and gentlemen. But I was at the office earlier this morning. I was looking around for Mike Moore, and he had called him, and he said he was sick. Well, I'm looking at you right now because we are, folks. We are now actually on camera, and I'm looking at him right now. And I got to tell you, he's looking healthy as all get out. And so, what does this mean? I think he was faking it to take a day off. Maybe, folks. Is the president of Northern Seminary listening right now?
I don't think Dr. Joy is listening right now, but it is Northern's Day of Giving, so there's a lot of celebrations happening at Northern.
And there was a lot of donuts over there.
I know, I didn't get any, but
I said, "Get thee behind me, Satan! I'm trying to lose weight," and I left after a battle against evil. I left all those donuts. Well, anyways, ladies and gentlemen, here we are, Theology on Mission podcast, and where theology meets the challenges of culture for Christ's kingdom, for His mission. And we have a very special guest with us today, Eun Strawser. Now, Eun, are you here yet? She has written a book entitled You Were Never Meant to Lead Alone. Did I get that right, Dr. Eun?
Yes, I am an official doctor, so I will be the gauge for if Mike Moore is pulling a fast one on Northern Seminary or
Yes,
not.
you are not only a reverend, but you're a medical doctor. And so, frankly, I'm trying to lose weight, and we do not want to have medical conversations right now because everyone will tune out. And all 5 listeners will be bye-bye. Wouldn't you agree, Mike Moore?
Yeah, I do agree. But we're not just having on because...
Can I just tell a little story about...
Wait. Well, let me do my thing, and then you can tell a story. And then I got a story to tell after that.
All right. You do your thing, then I'll go a story, and then you'll go a story. I got
it. Dr. Strawser also leads the EVA collaborative. Did I say that right? Because I know that, sometimes us white guys, we see words like that, and we're like, we don't know what to do with it. EVA collaborative, which is church planting training, and Northern Seminary has an awesome new partnership with EVA, the Post-Pandemic Church Planting Initiative. So if you jump into one of the cohorts that UN is leading, it can be a fast track to get some seminary credit and to come to Northern. So check that out. If you Google it, you'll find it. But EVA is spelled IWA. Do you want to tell us the meaning behind
EVA? EVA, like Viva La Eva. EVA.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a Hawaiian name for an endemic bird here in Hawaii. I know, listeners and watchers, I am from Hawaii. I'm suffering for the gospel over there. But an Eva bird, basically, the uniqueness of an Eva bird, it's like one of the largest birds. It flies super, super high. It soars so high that it actually can fall asleep for days just from how much height it gains. But its choice of nesting is never in high places. Its choice of nesting is low in the ground and amongst other bird species. So what better way to kind of think of a portrait of the future or emerging leaders that we would want in the church today, folks who are really gifted at soaring high, getting big picture, bird's eye view of what's happening, but really, really love and are invested in their local communities. So that's the EVA collaborative story, Mike Moore.
That is good branding right there, Fitch. I mean, it does not get any better than that.
Well, we all know that Un is a multi-talented person, and marketing, my guess, is one of her lanes as well. Probably one of her 10 different lanes that she does so well. But can I tell a little story now? Do I have permission?
Yeah, story time. Go for it.
Yeah, the first time I met Un, I was at a conference. I can't remember what one it was, but I just remember being in this kind of social area where there were couches and everybody was sitting around talking. And I met her with my pal Alan Hirsch, and I don't remember if anyone else was there.
Oh, I was there. Yeah. Don't forget me. I was there.
You were there?
Well, this is also when I first met On, but go ahead. So somehow you forgot me. It's
okay. So, for some reason you were forgettable that night. I don't know what. but anyways, I got introduced, and it literally took me about a half an hour to figure out how to say Eun's first name. I don't know even if you're pronouncing it right, Mike. And by the way, I think she challenged me 152 times on my wrong pronunciation. It kind of reminds me when I'm in France or Quebec and I'm trying to speak French and I get like, that look. Oh, you stupid white person, white Anglo person, please get with the program. Anyways, it was an interesting encounter with how do you say it? Just help me one more time.
I'll try my very best for the 153rd time. Here's pleasure. It's Eun.
That's it?
That's it.
Eun.
But I will say, as much as Fitch is a white Anglo person, he's beloved by my local community here in Hawaii called Ma Ke Alo. They want to only really, and can we just go to conferences where Fitch is there? I'm like, oh my gosh, you know that there are other people in the world contributing, but they really do. They felt like you have a Jack Nicholson persona. So it's just like, if Jack Nicholson really loved Jesus, wouldn't you feel more compelled to follow him if Jack is telling you about God? So that was the,
Yeah. Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever heard that much of a compliment from anyone coming to a conference. Mike Moore, take notes. Two, I'm grateful. And three, Jack Nicholson, no, we don't want to follow Jack Nicholson on anything Jack Nicholson does. But anyways,
Yes, David.
We're doing this church planting partnership, and yet I feel like there's a unique lane of church planting that you are leading us into. I think the audience might want to know what describes the unique contribution. Folks, my dog Stanley is whining. Max, can you get Stanley? This is terrible to happen in the middle of a podcast. I'm so sorry. Stanley, behave. Max, get Stanley. He's ruining my podcast. And I feel like you've got a unique perspective, a unique lane to offer us. Can you give us 2 or 3 handles to figure out what it means to learn how to church plant with Dr. Reverend Dr. Eun Strawser? I'm just going to call you Dr. Strawser from now on.
That's fine. That's whatever you want to do. I think church planting is probably an overused term, just like discipleship, maybe just like grace, all these Christianese kinds of words. But I think in particular, and nobody wants to talk about the pandemic ever again. I mean, even in our initial conversation, Fitch, we were just like, why would we even call it and label it post-pandemic? Because people are just really tired. They want to move on, all those things. But I think that there is something noteworthy to place it, church planting within a real life time. Otherwise, we would make the mistake of saying that this kind of global changing thing that has impacted culture would not matter to church planting. It would be a miss if we thought that that was true, if the church thought that that was true. I think also on this side of the pandemic, we are seeing a lot more prophets being in the lead. And usually in the church, it used to be in like 10, 20 years ago, North American church plants were dominated by younger white male leaders who wanted to move into a new neighborhood and all these kinds of things. We've written a lot and have observed a lot about that kind of culture, what it's produced, what it's contributed, and frankly, what it's robbed of neighborhoods. So I feel like in the next 10 years, it's really a movement for and a call for apostolic church planters to either step a little bit aside or partner with or learn from more prophetically bent church planters. And if you're looking at who are poised to do that, they are Black and brown women, They are mostly co-vocational leaders. So just like me, I am a senior pastor of my church here in Hawaii, but I also have a real day job that pays me for my income and my livelihood. So co-vocational leaders are emerging. I think church planters post-pandemic, white church planters post-pandemic, are usually in their like 45s and above age group on average. I think it means that there is a room for emerging leaders. So how do we address church planting realistically, where again, people get a bird's eye view of leadership, what's happening in the climate and the change in the landscape, but are tethered to their local place? I think if we don't address sharing leadership, co-vocational leadership, how are we contending practically with the culture, this particular culture post-pandemic, then I think that we would make the same mistake and probably just try to do the same thing we tried to do 30 to 50 years ago in church planting. 3 handles, bitch.
Well, yeah, so it sounds to me like we're moving away from, you're leading us away from by the way, when she said co-vocational, ladies and gentlemen, she meant what we used to call bivocational. You have a job, say, in the work world or the secular world or whatever you want to call it. And you also have a leadership role in guiding church. And that the vocations, there's at least two vocations going on there. Vocations meaning you are present and alive and a person working in those two roles. But you're leading us away from that champion, pioneer, parachute church planter who parachutes into a neighborhood and has a budget of $500,000, and nobody has that anymore, and sets up this pattern of gathering people together into a machine. That was about the best summary I could do. Okay, and I think you're right on about that, but I think it takes a different kind of imagination than most church planters. And I'm not only talking white males, I'm talking generally speaking, all the denominations. I'm in a majority black church right now that I think up until maybe 2 years ago had been under the prior approach to church planting. So what do you say? What do you do? How do you get people out of one mode of thinking about church planting, maybe don't even use the word church plant, into another way of thinking about inhabiting a neighborhood for Christ and gathering an ecclesia together for his kingdom?
Yeah, I think that, well, one, I think that if we also don't use certain recognizable terms, then we would probably do a disservice to the emerging leadership that we want to support. And if in this kind of conversation, if the hope is that there are going to be more Black and brown leaders who are already invested in their local neighborhoods, who are already doing the Jesus work, Jesus presence in their neighborhoods. And these are the people who are thinking, I am poised to church plant, then I think taking away some terms, because terms are structures also, and validity and credibility, those kinds of things, I think it would be a fail if we just reworded everything. It's sort of like if most of a lot of the Black churches and Latino churches that I work with, there is a reason why people still go by some sort of titles, right? They want to be called Mr. or Mrs., right? They want to be called pastor something or doctor something, because this is coming from a culture and a tradition where, one, it was not validated or acknowledged before in a larger society. People have earned it, but that already gives them a level of trust and credibility with their community. So I think the post-pandemic church planting is trying to hold tension with things that will structurally still help and give viability, credibility, a lot of support for folks who have not had that before. But the second part is, can we learn from these people? I was just in Cleveland just yesterday for a whole week of working with all their CCD workers. It's about 50 to 100 leaders who love the city of Cleveland, and they're mostly prophetically bent leaders, mostly Black and brown folks, and a lot of them attend church, but they are seeing and sensing that need for, I don't know if this church that's in this neighborhood, if they actually could show that they're for my my neighbors that I'm working with and serving, and I'm having spiritual conversations, and they want prayer, they want a spiritual leader and a guidance from me because I've put in the work, I have the presence work in to be that spiritual person for them. If that's the conversation that a lot of these kinds of CCD leaders are going to, my next question is, what stops you from wanting to plant? Well, no. Those are different people. Those are vocational ministers. They need this kind of training. They need, all those this kind of experience. And I'm like, in so many ways, you've already planted. You're already a church, and you're a church that's more recognizable than most of the institutional churches in your neighborhood. So what makes you feel like you haven't created a Jesus community that is partnered with the neighborhood, that is for and with the neighborhood? So a lot of the conversations I'm having in like CCD world, for those who don't know, it's Christian Community Development leaders, those kinds of people, what makes them feel like they have a hesitancy to be a church planter?
Good.
Yeah.
Oh, a little plug. Northern has a CCD, a master's in doctoral degree. Un was actually in Chicago last week. Didn't hang out with you, Fitch. Also, I didn't get to hang out there.
Nobody hangs out with me. I'm telling you. No, you didn't hang out with me. J.R. Woodward didn't hang out with me. Nobody hangs out with me. I'm all alone here watching a hockey game on a Friday night. Well, my son likes to watch. Brianne doesn't like to watch.
JR stayed with me. I also, side note, I keep forgetting that this is a video. So I keep muting myself and like coughing. So I keep forgetting that people might see that. Okay. Anyhow, enough about me. Where were we? So Fitch was talking about, the mission.
We should also talk about the fact that Northern does have it's a seminary that has a really, really, really strong invested CCD presence. Because of Coach Wayne Gordon, because you guys are there in the Chicago area, and it's right, your neighbors with Lawndale Christian Community Church and all the things in the past nearly 50 years God has been doing in that neighborhood. Like, why wouldn't a seminary, have that? Because it's right in your local place. Right? I'm just thinking that a church planting initiative like this could afford that kind of wealth of learning and experience, and also offer it to other places and other cities. That I bet there are CCD workers there. I bet there are churches and Christians in these neighborhoods who also want to join in this work together. We're just trying to help along with a framework to prepare people, equip people for this time, this place now. We probably won't need a post-pandemic church planting initiative, hopefully in 5 years from now, but maybe this will help to shape and frame what it should look like in the next 10 years.
That's great.
Yeah, and everybody should know, I don't know if we've made a big enough point about this, but Dr. Strawser is an accomplished church planter, church leader, church trainer of leaders in Hawaii and around the United States and Canada. But I've met several of your leaders, and I'm telling you, if we can have about 2,000 or 3,000 more of those in the next 5 years, the kingdom shall go forth. Amen, Mike Moore?
Amen.
Are you awake? Are you awake?
Oh, yeah. I'm awake. I just left the train to my next question. Okay, and this is for Un. So I'm workshopping this observation with people. Okay, so I workshopped it with some people last week. I workshopped this with Fitch a couple of weeks ago. And normally when I'm talking to Fitch, it's like in one ear, out the other. But this time I gave him this idea. And he goes, which means it might have some value to it. Okay, so I can think back 15 years ago when I was part of planting First Church. And I could throw a rock and I was going to hit a church planter. There were so many church planters, and everybody was kind of in this moderate middle evangelical space, trying to kind of figure it out. A lot of people had some kind of evangelical baggage. A lot of like white guys that look like me that drink cortados and like to bike, and do, and go to breweries. This is over Fitch's head. But what I've noticed since COVID is I don't hear it near as many people planting churches in Chicago. I hear very, very few people actually using that language or doing the work. And you're traveling around the world. You were just in the Midwest last week. So can you tell us what are you seeing, and why do you think that is, if my observation is accurate?
Yeah, I do training for like centering discipleship stuff, shared leadership, both here in the US and the UK. Like the Church of England and the Church of Scotland are, they're asking these questions too, because they're in the right. Churches in the UK are different because they funnel through. I mean, talk about a machine. They will funnel through all of these, and they have a plethora of people who answer a call and all those kinds of things, right? But their biggest question, like, why ask a random, Korean American immigrant lady who lives in the middle of Pacifica nowhere, to come and do those kinds of equipping stuff with them? Is because I think the church is trying to ask that discipleship question practically in reality, because a former model is not working well for this current culture. I think that's the same for here in the US, because the model of just coming in like Fitch was describing, that doesn't work anymore, and it's too expensive and it's costly, right? And you're contending with a new kind of people where, if 30% of the folks who were formerly attending church prior to the pandemic had already had a mass exodus, it was an additional 30% of folks who have left and continue to leave the church. So like here in the US, if you have a Sunday morning worship service that averages 65 people, you are nailing it in terms of church success, right? But everyone's trying to do, how do we stabilize after the pandemic? How do we sustain? And all we want to do is maintain who we have today, because it feels so precious that we even survive this thing, right? If that's the question of both inherited established church leaders and church planters, then nobody would ever think about a growth model. If I'm thinking about a growth model, thinking about where the church or church planting ought to be on this side of the pandemic, I think it is learning from Christians who the pandemic pushed. Those folks who already have a missional bent, a missional impulse, a sentness, they got sent. These are the people who are moving into what first century Christians were already doing. The church was already doing, right? Moving towards the poor, moving towards the vulnerable, right? All the social justice work we like to compartmentalize, right? That it's for Black churches, immigrant welfare is for the Latino churches, right? Those kinds of conversations we usually think pre-pandemic. The reality was during the pandemic, it was these churches that were leading the charge, but the big gap was nobody was listening. It would still continue to be a racial divide or a cultural divide. I think if the church planters today want to learn how to be missional, it already exists. This isn't something to be reimagined or imagined anew, or come up with a new gimmick or new method to do it. The imagination already exists. That's really what the Christian impulse should be towards our neighbors, right? So if that's happening, I just think that a church planting framework that includes what we learn from culture today, include practitioners who are already doing this, I think that it will better equip a church planter to be ready for planting now, and not feel disheartened, not feel or feel limited, that like, oh my gosh, I hit that magic number 65, I'm good now. This is how I'm going to maintain for the next 20 years.
Yeah.
You've written this book, You Were Never Meant to Lead Alone. Why? Why did you write that book?
Because I wanted David Fitch to write the afterword for it. I can't ask David Fitch to write an afterword for it if I don't have a book, Fitch.
No. Well, thank you for the honor of that. Okay, so I want you to answer that question, and I got a follow-up question on what I think I know you're going to say.
Well, ask this follow-up question. I love a two-part question.
Well, my follow-up question is that I've had these discussions with denominational authorities all the time. We do it this way. We go live in a neighborhood. We don't need $500,000. We get to know people. We have co-vocationality. We get to actually have our tentacles in the neighborhood. And then out of this interrelationality is birthed the church. By the way, it's proven prior to the last 100 years of church planting that it works. But they say, "Oh, this will never work."
Yeah, I will answer the follow-up question first, and then I'll ask the teaser question.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that it doesn't work if you have certain set of metrics that need to be hit, right? If I feel like the only way that I'm going to assess, and I have validity to assess that something or some structure or method is not working, that not working is coming to a conversation or being contended against, then I need to ask, what are my metrics that define that leads to my evaluation if something is not working? I think it's like how Brandon Renter and Alexia Salvatierra wrote about the hush harbors and the base communities. It's like these kinds of Christian communities that were neighborhood based in these kinds of more urban or in need communities. But these are people who are already doing this. They knew that there was a great need for this, and their Christian and their Jesus following lent them to be able to say that this is the right thing to do, and this is what it means to be the church. I think most of American church and church planting constructs, we're not led to do that. We think that the metric of success is going to be having a well-attended, rhythmic gathering of some sort, and we're going to have a worshipful experience together. Those are all beautiful things to do. The church needs to worship together. Mostly I'm biased so that we can learn to lament together, but that's another story. You know what I mean? But yes, those kinds of practices are wonderful and meaningful, but that can't be the only a measure of success or metric of success to say that one community is flourishing and another not. I think the metric actually should be, the question for the church is, does your church's existence actually matter to your neighborhood, and vice versa? Does your neighborhood's existence actually matter to your church? If you can't answer those two questions and build metrics out of those two things, then I don't think you should be church planting. You know what I mean? But if you're already a church leader in an inherited church, you should rethink your metrics so that you can answer those two questions. Okay, I'll answer that. I mean,
there's a lot of challenges to us all today on the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. The first question is, why write this book about leadership? And my guess is it feeds into the other question that you already answered.
Yeah, I think so Centering Discipleship, my first book baby, that's what I call them, is really a love letter to my local church here, because we were able to center discipleship. That's how we started our church plant here. That's now year 7. You were never meant to lead alone. The Power of Sharing Leadership was written, really, I think, a love letter to leaders who have really just gone through the fire of what it means to lead the church. It is not a loved, rewarded leadership situation, especially if you are a minority leader, and I think especially if you're a woman leader in the church today. If you are those types, then it is not rewarding. It comes at such a severity of cost. And I just am sick of thinking that leadership, especially in the church, ought to follow what everybody says about leadership, that it's lonely, that you have to gamble a lot of things, you have to be a different kind of person, only certain kinds of personalities can lead, all those kinds of things. I think it's rubbish. I think for the church to, and it was actually a lot of response from my work with Centering Discipleship, because people are just getting to that point. If they want to poise their communities so that discipleship is centered, the next question always was, who's going to do this with me? If you have no plan of knowing how to share leadership, You cannot center discipleship, period, because you can't be the only person discipling. So if you're thinking about how does discipleship work as a focus in the life of your church and for the sake of your community, you also have to ask a leadership question. So, one of the most powerful tools out there in church world or a particular culture of church world is APES, right? Fivefold from Ephesians 4. I just think that my contribution is, I also use that as a tool, but it is accessible. It acknowledges the fact that historically this kind of tool has been written the most by older white males who maybe not as connected to a local community or a diversity of a local communities. And so this was trying to put maybe renewed, better language, better vocabulary to make it so that APES is a tool where it doesn't just ostracize and leave out both women and Black and brown today.
Yes. Mike Moore, I have like three final kind of popcorn kind of questions to throw out, but before we are running out of time, ladies and gentlemen. Mike Moore, what have you been thinking this whole time, Mr. Church? By the way, I've been trying to get Mike Moore to plan a church with me for the last 4 years. He says no every time. Go ahead, Mike. What is it that
not enough money? You don't make enough money if you do. Not interested. Sorry, I keep going off camera to hawk up my lung. So I was actually thinking this is more like this should be my teledoc appointment, and we should just kick Fitch out. Thinking several things. I don't have three popcorn. But
do you have any questions that have been lingering in your mind during these last 35 minutes?
Absolutely. Kind of in a similar vein to my previous question. On when you're talking to potential church planters, what's the number one hesitation that you're hearing from people right now? And is it different, do you think, from like 10, 15 years ago?
1000% it's different from 10, 15 years ago. I think the number one hesitation is that people will self-disqualify, period, because of those very warped and outdated metrics of what makes a successful church. Nobody wants to go into something and lead something thinking that it's going to be a failure. Nobody. I don't want to do that. And I'm a risk taker, right? People want to do it. And I think that the second thing is they will self-disqualify, and they think that it's an extremely lonely road. Most of these leaders, and the leaders, I think, who have been in these urban centers, living with most of these people, these church planters, the other churches on their block, they don't even recognize them as leaders. They don't think that their church exists, right? All those things. And then they're moving towards, nonprofit 501c3 world because they get a better support, right? So I'm just like, all of that is just super, super messed up in my mind, right? We should be championing these hyper-local leaders more than anybody else. We should be making sure that they know that they're not alone in this work. And we should validate all the things that a wealth of experience, a wealth of gifting that they've already lived out, and say that, you know what, maybe you should be able to contribute what are better metrics. I'm just going to plug this in, Mike, for our church planting initiative. The difference is it's not going to be, how do you get a box set startup kit for your next, a church in your identified neighborhood, that serves really good coffee. Listen, good coffee is really important to me too. Don't get me wrong, Kona coffee. But the 5 core equipping things we're going to be talking about is obviously centering discipleship. It's addressing intercultural dynamics, so you actually know the neighborhood you're going to be in and serving and living with, sharing leadership, pastoring co-vocationally, and exegeting neighborhood. That sounds new. Doesn't it sound new?
It sounds new. It sounds good.
Okay, so we got to wrap it up. Let me give you a few popcorn questions. If someone's trying to figure out whether they should go to exponential church planting or Northern Seminary partnership with Dr. Strawser, just 2 sentences on that.
2 sentences. And okay, FYI, I love Expo. I'm going to be speaking at Expo West in the fall. So yay.
You're just forgetting that he's on video.
I am not forgetting this is on video.
Chaz, you got to edit some stuff out. Yeah, I think that people will be motivated to not self-disqualify themselves and feel less lonely in this kind of hard leadership work if they are with folks who have similar experiences, life stories, maybe similar pains, lamenting. And I'm not sure for the post-pandemic leaders that I am imagining would be stepping up to do this kind of work that's meaningful, diverse, includes co-vocational know-hows, all those kinds of things, that would be different from the average church planter who would be attending a conference like Expo.
Yeah, so if you're scared to death of going to exponential and failing because the various, I don't know, models that might be there might not be either feasible or that you see yourself in, we have another approach, another option, actually one that fits the local kingdom you're already living in. Okay, secondly, I think we need a theology. I think church planters need theology. They need to understand a theology of church and culture. How am I to engage the culture? You talk about it all the time. We need an ecclesiology, an understanding of how and what and why a church is and what it is for. We need to understand cultural exegesis in all these things. So here's my last popcorn question, because we're running out of time and I'm getting never mind, folks. I have this thing I have to do right after this, and I'm not going to even talk about it. Where is the best place to get this theology that church planters might need?
Oh, I'm going to just say through this work. Mike, what were you going to say?
That was less than two sentences. That was great.
Yeah, you're going to get it here, and you're going to get it where in a way that's going to fit into your schedule. You're going to immediately have co-laborers, so you know that you're not alone, and you're going to actually have that sense where you don't have to disqualify yourself anymore. Please stop doing that. You should be contributing to the gift and wealth of experience that you've already put into your neighborhood. Right? I would want to.
And here's my last popcorn question. What would be a altar call song we could use to invite people into church planting in a different way? Mike Moore, I want you to sing Just As I Am. Go ahead. Give us a Just As I Am.
I think it's People Need the Lord, right? Isn't that it?
No. People need the Lord.
Song in there.
I just want to hear Mike Moore sing.
In our local context.
I want to hear you sing Just As I Am and not cough.
Yeah. If we bring the guy that we had on the podcast last week, who
that was awesome. Yeah,
had a grand piano. We're not comparing, but he had a grand piano in his office, and he was playing in the background. So if he was on here, kind of doing the background music, I would probably be a little more likely to sing.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been great to have you with us. Dr. Strawser's written, "You were never meant to lead alone." I believe is it already out or is it coming out soon?
Coming out soon in the fall.
Oh, in the fall. So you can probably pre-order it as we speak.
Pre-order it. Yes. My publisher will be so thankful.
Yes. And we're very thankful to have you on the podcast. It's been a joy to see you, not meet you. We've already met you. A joy to see you and talk with you and greet you and get to be in this conversation again. We highly recommend Northern Seminary's partnership with EVA. EVA, nice. Church planting. Look it up, investigate it. Website, blah, blah, blah. We'll have it all on the notes. Folks, that wraps it up for another Theology on Mission podcast. Try to give us a good review. And if you can't give us a good one, give us a bad one. We'll take any kind of, we're desperate. We just want reviews on whatever platform you listen to us. Spread the word, Theology on Mission podcast. And for now, it is over and out.
You almost said my name, Mike Moore.
And David Fitch, Theology on Mission. Till next time. See you later.